to 2023 cohort. MPs demand more information on the sale of Tautuna Lodge as Parliament is told the property is wholly owned by the government. And American President Donald Trump presses ahead with his proposed tariffs against Mexico and Canada. Good evening and welcome to our 7 p.m. live. It is a great pleasure to have your company. My name is Lone Ranchobolo. The Botswana Examinations Council says the 2024 BGCSE results showed that overall performance remained stable, but there was a slight decline on top grades, with 2.84% of candidates achieving grade A or better, compared to 3.7% in 2023. Government schools results showed gradual improvements across most grading categories, with 76.2% of the candidates attaining grade E or better. The BAC chairperson said the exam administration was largely smooth despite isolated cases of malpractice.
The results indicate that among the grades awarded this year, 96.24% were grades G or better, compared to the 95.80 in 2023. The proportion of grades at E or better is 74.77%, compared to the 75% in 2023. One set of grades at C or better is 31.35%, compared to the 32.3% in 2023. However, the proportion of grades at A or better is 2.84%, compared to the 3.7% in 2023, which is a slight decline.
The ministry under the new administration is committed to bringing some strategies that will chart the way forward in ensuring that the quality of education is improved in its entirety. We will also advance the ideals of an education system that will see us championing the key priority areas in education as pronounced by Mr. President Advocate Duma Boko. Some of these ideals include reorienting education and shifting towards skills of the future through the introduction of STEAM education from early childhood education and primary school level to promote critical thinking, problem solving, and innovation skills, thus building a foundation for education with production. Integrating technology and moving towards the fourth industrial revolution, hence improving ICT and internet connectivity. And don't worry, we shall have all those in place. Enhancing teacher training and development. The professionalization of the educators is, of course, very key and sets the foundation for quality instruction. Enhancing the quality of instruction in teaching and learning process is very, very crucial at every level of teaching and learning experience.
Parliament has been told that the controversial Tautuna Lodge is a state-owned enterprise which sits on a farm measuring 4,300 hectares just outside Haunzi Township. The property was purchased by the previous administration for 58.2 million pula to serve as a research center on the sand veld environment, particularly wildlife, cattle rearing, agriculture. The information given by the Assistant Minister of State President in Parliament was a variance with the previous answers. But Leader of Opposition, Dumela Salichando, asserted that the property does not appear as a government asset.
Kanya Tautuna Lodge e setse kile a buisana mo parlamente a o kile wa lebella gore ba ne le matona pele ga gago ba rabile ba re ka yone le gore a karabo ya gago gompieno e tsamalana le se ba se buileng le potso ya ntla ya bobedi re tetso gatwe am sure ha le ro lebeletse o itse gore re tetso gatwe ya no lehelo le le dirisiwa e le lehelo la ke ba Ministry of Agriculture for research. Ya no wana re bolela gore ke hotele go ntse go a tsena go irwa di drive. What explains the change, if at all there's been a change. The third one, ke gore, gone ko lojeng e maloba ga re kopane ko dithuto puisanyong tsa budget, accountant general o re retsa ga gona sepe se se supang gore lodge e rekilwe jang. There is no evidence of any payment. So who paid? Secondly, na re bolela gore ga e apere gope mo di registereng tsa dithuto tsa puso. E apere kae? Go re kgonang go bona tsone dio tseo. La bohelo potso ke gore diphologolo tseo re di netsa hiwa goromente o na le bosupi jo ka bontshang jwa gore goromente o di amogetse o di sitse go kae.
Ke ntse hatshe le ba ministry. They have given me their assurance that dikarabo tsonetse is the current state of affairs ko Tautona Lodge. Previously, what took place there, ga ke a botsa potso eo motlotlegi, mme ke a go solohetsa gore ke tla go batlela karabo eo, and I'm going to come and answer it here. Ye nngwe potso, you also went on to talk about how there were other questions that were answered previously. And go lebega o ka re di harologane le tse dingwe ye nka e arabang that there was a previous figure I have been informed today ke hala gore amount initially gate ke 58 million, but it's not 58 million ya ka le utle ke rile 58,240,000 e be ba tlhalosa gore nya o ka re di number are different at this stage because rentse re sa bue ya 240,000 rentse re lebala go tsenya ya gore VAT go no ga tsana 240,000 ke be ke amogela gore e nya mme ke a le utla nna ke a go bolela batswana se leng gore la re le ka tla go it's something that you can verify in a court of law.
A sustainable energy specialist at the Australian Development Agency has emphasized the need for active participation in the achieving sustainable development goals at all levels.
Speaking at the recently concluded 2024 SADC Sustainable Energy Weekend, Gaborone, Manfred Besmeyer stressed the importance of inclusive engagement, particularly among youth, women and entrepreneurs in the energy sector.
How we do that at ADA? We have an internal goal that 85% of all new initiatives have to contribute to the empowerment of women and youth. So, every project proposal we receive, we assess them thoroughly for our in-house gender experts and provide recommendations and feedback to the project developers. Even we request a deep dive in the gender analysis and recommend or add recommendations to our contribution agreements. And of course, we monitor and we evaluate the indicators related to the gender equality purpose. You could observe this approach during this fantastic Sustainable Energy Week here in Gaborone. Almost all projects funded by ADA and presented here during this week have a crucial component focusing on gender equality and empowering women in the sector. For example, GenSec and SACRI, but also all the other centers for renewable energy and energy efficiency, they have a dedicated component related to gender and women empowerment. Or the initiative Soul Drained. Yesterday afternoon, during the Soul Drain conference, we had an inspiring discussion and presentations how SACRI and the centers incorporate the gender approach in their setting of the projects at all levels.
And when we come back after a short break, American President Donald Trump presses ahead with his proposed tariffs against Mexico and Canada. Stay with us for more news.
Are among the most diverse ecosystems on Earth, but they're increasingly threatened by climate change and pollution. One British artist has taken it upon himself to help save these vital habitats, one paper cut at a time.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Eco Africa.
And I'm Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria.
Once a month, Hassan Bello takes a dive to search for waste. Though visibility underwater is low, he and his colleagues don't have to dive too deep, since plastic floats towards the surface. Lake Victoria, Africa's biggest freshwater lake, is full of trash.
What are your thoughts on this topic, Jeannie? Are women more prone to corruption as much as men? What do you think?
You know, I approach this topic being biased, thinking that, men are corrupted and women are all victims. But, recent studies actually shows that it's gender neutral. Mm-hmm. We are all susceptible to be corrupted.
Welcome back, and on our international news, U.S. President Donald Trump says his proposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canadian goods will take effect 4th March, along with extra 10% duty on Chinese imports, because deadly drugs are still pouring into the U.S. from those countries.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that his proposed 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods will go into effect on March 4th as scheduled, because of what he said were drugs flowing into the U.S. from those countries.
The drugs continue to pour into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of people. We're losing substantially more than 100,000 people. I mean, dead. They're dead. The families are destroyed after that happens.
Trump also said he would impose an additional 10% duty on Chinese goods on that day.
It's 10 plus 10. In 10 case, 10. Was there confusion on that? There was, sir. Yeah. Okay, 10 plus 10. It's a second 10.
Canadian and Mexican officials were due to meet with Trump administration counterparts in Washington on Thursday and Friday to try to forestall the tariffs, which could deal a serious blow to a highly integrated North American economy. Here's Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
The goal is to protect the trade treaty between Mexico, the U.S., and Canada, and within this frame, see what actions to take to strengthen the three economies. So Mexican ministers in Washington have studied the matters thoroughly, and there have been previous discussions. So I hope we can reach an agreement, and on March 4th we can announce another thing.
Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said his country will have an immediate and extremely strong response if the U.S. imposes tariffs next week.
We will continue to do that work and do everything necessary to avoid these tariffs coming in. But like I said, if on Tuesday there are unjustified tariffs brought in on Canada, we will have an immediate and extremely strong response, as Canadians expect.
Trump's comments on the matter during his first cabinet meeting on Wednesday seemed to suggest that he may push the deadline back for about 1 month until April 4th. Comments from Trump administration officials indicated that the April deadline was for Trump's reciprocal tariffs, matching import duty rates of other countries and offsetting their other restrictions. Beijing, in a letter to U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, said China and the United States should address concerns in economic and trade fields through equal dialogue and consultation.
Now in business, concerns are rising that South Africa may be dropped from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, when it comes for review later this year. Tensions with the United States have grown since the Trump administration took office, and experts believe Washington may have already decided.
South Africa has grown its trade with the U.S. for almost 3 decades, largely thanks to benefits of America's African Growth and Opportunity Act. AGOA provides eligible sub-Saharan African countries with duty-free access to the U.S. market for hundreds of different products. However, America may no longer feel South Africa is eligible. South Africa's decision to take U.S. ally Israel to the International Criminal Court of Justice on accusations of genocide angered many in Washington. The Trump administration has been particularly frustrated with the new land seizure law in South Africa, saying it's violating people's rights. For this, the U.S. president cancelled all aid to the country. Will this trade act be next? An act that many businesses in South Africa depend on.
There are people that are employed in the citrus farms. There are people that are employed in the automotive sector that do the assembling of all the cars that go into the U.S. from South Africa. It doesn't mean completely being shut out of the U.S. markets. It just means U.S. consumers will no longer buy South African products at the same price as they used before, which would make South African products less competitive.
South Africa's economy has been staggering along with growth averaging at just 1% per annum. AGOA is just a small cog in America's giant economy, but it's important to many African businesses. However, while analysts say many South Africans may suffer from an exclusion, it may not be as significant as a few years ago.
Out of the value of U.S. global trade, which is about 3.7 trillion, the value of AGOA is probably about 9.7 billion. So it's still small in the bigger picture. Having said that, if you look from a South Africa perspective, obviously the big drivers at the moment are the agricultural sector, the automobile sector. From 2013, the coverage of AGOA to 2024, the coverage of AGOA has actually dropped from 44% to about 25%.
But some trade experts say South Africa should cut its losses and look to new markets, and more especially strengthen its partnerships with the BRICS countries, which are emerging as some of the world's fastest growing economies.
So many countries list China as an example as their biggest trading partner, which is something that is very different to 20 years ago, where many countries would list the likes of the US and Europe. So which means we are seeing a change in trade patterns. And this is also influenced by the tariffs that the US is imposing on many countries. If you impose tariffs, countries are going to see that as a risk, and they are going to diversify their exports or their trade to other countries.
A delegation of business and political leaders are preparing to travel to Washington with the hope of convincing the new administration under US President Donald Trump to keep working with South Africa. But many stakeholders here believe it's a waste of time. South Africa will soon be out, and it's time to move on. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Johannesburg.
And now a short break, followed by a sports update.
What are your thoughts on this topic, Jeannie? Are women more prone to corruption as much as men? What do you think?
You know, I approach this topic being biased, thinking that, men are corrupted and women are all victims. But, recent studies actually shows that it's gender neutral. We are all susceptible to be corrupted.
Are among the most diverse ecosystems on Earth, but they're increasingly threatened by climate change and pollution. One British artist has taken it upon himself to help save these vital habitats, one paper cut at a time.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Eco Africa.
And I'm Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria.
Once a month, Hassan Dino takes a dive to search for waste. Thought visibility underwater is low, he and his colleagues don't have to dive too deep, since plastic floats towards the surface. Lake Victoria, Africa's biggest freshwater lake, is full of trash.
Welcome back, and now in sports, South African giants Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs will this weekend lock horns in a Betway Premiership encounter. Sundowns are leading the log table with 51 points, while Amakosi are on the 8th position with 25 points. Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso believes his opposite Nasrin Nabi will not be ultra defensive when the two meet tomorrow.
No, he will not change nothing on his general approach on the team. He can strategically, obviously, adapt certain principles like ourselves can adapt. He's not any kid that is coaching on football for the first time. I have a big respect for him. And he knows what he's doing, and he wants to develop his team. That's what he wants, because he's preparing also the future of the club and of the team. So we expect, obviously, these games also have a different context. What I mean in a different context is that these games bring something different. They highlight the best of the teams. They highlight most of the times the best of the players. That's why there's always some excitement on these teams. But most of the times these kind of games are not the best ones or the best technically well-played matches. So sometimes they are, but not in Portugal, not usually. When you see a Benfica Sporting or a Porto Benfica or a Sporting Porto, usually the matches can be more narrow, more closed, more aggressive, more not so well played. If we go for our match with Pirates, we cannot say it was a beautiful match in general. It was a very competitive match. It's another thing, but with a lot of tactical things happening during the match. But if you think about, if you take out the goals that happened from both sides, that all of them were quite beautiful. And you looked at the statistical side of the game, it was not the best, the most beautiful game to be looked at. But it was very competitive, very interesting. So football has other dimensions rather than also the statistical side of it. So that's what I expect also from this match.
Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs defender Rashwin Dotley said they are aware of the Mamelodi Sundowns attacking trio Lucas Ribeiro, Costa, Peter Shalolile and Karam Reines. He further stated that they will bring their A game to this encounter.
They're all good players, but at the end of the day, if they're good in scoring and you're good in defending, you know, if you're on the day, you bring your best game like they bring their best game, it's head on, you know. So it's just for all of us on that day to bring our A game, bring what the management saw in order to bring us here, bring that game out of yourself, push yourself, and then I think we will go head on. This weekend's game it's very big for the club, for the team, for us as players, for the coaching staff. You know, it's a big game for the club, but also for us as players, you know, on a personal level. Because sometimes you want to win the big games, but also you want to win every game you play, if it's possible to do so, fighting in the game. And it's a very important game and big game, and for us our goal is to go out and do our best and to win.
And that's all for Sports Update, and now a recap of tonight's headlines. No major change in the performance of the 2020-2024 BGCSE results compared to the 2023 cohort. MPs demand more information on the sale of the Tautuna Lodge as Parliament is told the property is wholly owned by the government. And American President Donald Trump presses ahead with proposed tariffs against Mexico and Canada. And that's all the news we had for you tonight. Thank you once again for watching YTV. From myself and the rest of the YTV News crew, good night.